Prince Harry, wow. Prince Harry, I don't know what's going on, man. I did not know that being a little bitch could be a brand, but apparently it is. And he's raking in a ton of money. And now you're going to be able to see him be a little bitch pay-per-view.
Stop it.
Yes, unbelievably. He is going to unpack his struggles with a trauma expert. This is, of course, a new age psychologist. And you can pay, I think that you have to pay $33.99 for access to Prince Harry as he unpacks his trauma, the trauma of his childhood. This entire event was coordinated by, of course, his book publisher. And the doctor is a Canadian doctor and an author. His name is Gabor Mate. And he is going to sit down with Harry and they're going to have an intimate conversation. And what Gabor Mate has said about this conversation, where they're going to unpack all of Prince Harry's emotional loss and trauma and his healing, he has said, quote, "In Spare, Prince Harry is very open about his mental health challenges, as I have been about in my own books. Such a public conversation, I hope, will help encourage more openness around mental health and contribute to remove the stigma around what we call mental illness." Yeah, I don't really think that Prince Harry is doing this for $33.99 because he wants to contribute to society, removing the stigma around mental illness. I think what he's potentially doing this for is because he wants to contribute to his own bank account. Now, call me crazy, this might be a conspiracy theory, but I think everything that him and Meghan are doing
hey, y'all, come look at this.
Might be because they want to contribute to their own bank account. Hear me out. It might be crazy, but maybe that whole book talking trash about his brother, flying to America, collecting all of this evidence, seeing everything as a dig against M. To dig against M. Everybody's jealous of M. She's so beautiful. She's just like Princess Diana. Maybe all of this is because he doesn't have any talents. Yeah, I think he's just a dumb prince. Yeah, he literally doesn't know anything. And so what he's realizing is like, wow, now that I'm not just receiving millions of dollars because I was born with royal blood flowing through my veins, now that I'm in America, I realize,
wait for it,
I have to have a talent if I'm going to keep raking in these millions to support this multi-million-dollar Montecito compound that me and my wife have purchased. And I don't actually have any talents. Oh my God, imagine being Prince Harry. He has no talents. He has nothing to bring to the free market. So what is he going to do? He's
Stop it.
going to stretch victimhood for as long as he possibly can. And so he's going to be a full-time little bitch. And if you would like to watch him be a little bitch full-time and you have $33.99 to spare, well, let me tell you guys, let me tell you guys where you can go. You can join the Canadian doctor and the author, Gabor Mate. And I think I'm going to pay to laugh. I don't know. I feel like I have to see it now. I want to see it. I'm interested. And he's got me.
here it comes.
I'm amazed. I want to see how long this can go on for, how long he can keep crying, and how many people are going to keep continuing to give him and his wife millions and believing that they're victims as they live in a multi-million-dollar compound in Montecito, California.
Well, good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Harry and Meghan's claims about supposed racists in the royal family have left a predictable and poisonous legacy for the last few years. We live in an age where grievances are given the benefit of the doubt, where the establishment is toxic by default, where my truth apparently means more than the truth. They knew the power their words would hold, and many people across the world took their words at face value.
Are you serious?
Now, almost 3 years on, Britain is still dealing with the fallout from this.
And also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
Okay.
What? About how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Hold up.
There's
Stop
several
right now.
There's several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you?
with Harry.
So that was a lie.
About how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh. And you're not going to tell me who had the conversation?
Very good question.
I think that would be very damaging to them.
Okay.
Compartmentalize
Because they were
conversations.
concerned that if he were too brown, that would be a problem. Are you saying that?
You better answer the fucking question.
I wasn't able to follow up with why, but if that's the assumption you're making, I think that feels like a pretty safe one.
You may recall that I lost my previous job for responding to these claims by saying I didn't believe a word of it. Well, Harry and Meghan have never provided any evidence for that highly incendiary claim. It's not like they haven't had the chance to. After all, they pumped out 6 hours of self-indulgent bilge on Netflix, trashing Britain and the press for its racism. But didn't mention what they said on Oprah. Harry read 150,000 words of family-bashing poison in his memoir Spare and toured the TV studios to promote it. It didn't mention what they'd said to Oprah Winfrey. Fact. Meghan had a 12-part podcast on Spotify. Didn't mention it either. It was like it never happened, like it disappeared. Clearly, neither of them gave a damn about royal protocol or family privacy. In fact, they built a whole industry around violating their own privacy and that of their relatives. Instead of backing up those claims about racism on their relentless publicity tour, Harry did a sort of strange U-turn, didn't he, a few months ago? Tried to pretend they'd never said them.
Are you serious?
It was us. It was the media.
In the Oprah interview, you accuse members of your family of racism. You don't even...
No, we didn't.
Well,
The British press said that.
right.
Stop it.
Did Meghan ever mention that they're racist?
She said there were troubling comments about
There
Archie's
was
skin
concern
colour.
about his skin colour.
Right. Wouldn't you describe that as essentially racist?
I wouldn't, not having lived within that family.
Took him 2 years to do that U-turn. 2 years of the royal family are a bunch of racists flying around the world. I was in America through a lot of that period, and they all believed it because it had appeared on Oprah. Then he says, I never meant to say anything about racism. What are you all talking about? It's the beastly media. Well, now Harry and Meghan's lick-spittle client journalist Omid Scobie, the man who lied about his age, said he was 33 when in fact he was 38, a bit older now, said he never used private jets and then got reminded of an Instagram picture of him the week before he denied that this week, showing him on a private jet. The man who said that I have regular phone calls with Queen Camilla.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Regular phone calls. Never had one phone call with Queen Camilla in my entire life. I'd like to, but she doesn't call. Well, Scobie is back with a spiteful, lie-filled new book, Fact, that's poured fuel on the flames. He says that Meghan wrote private letters to King Charles, naming 2 royals who she accuses of taking part in those supposedly troubling conversations about Archie's skin colour.
Stop it.
Scobie initially said he knew the names but couldn't legally report them. But of course, he could have done outside of the UK. He could have done it in America if he wanted to, where the book is published. He could have done it anywhere. But he said he never names names.
That doesn't make sense.
Which is another of his lies. And yet overnight they were sensationally revealed, suddenly, out of nowhere, in the Dutch version of Scobie's book. Journalists had been sent copies and the book was briefly on sale in bookstores. What? Before being suddenly withdrawn in a dash by the publishers. Scobie initially said it was a translation error, which didn't really make any sense because how do you mistranslate names? They're either there or they're not. The publisher now says it wasn't translation, it was simply an error. But how did that error happen?
Very good question.
How is there an entire different version appearing in a Dutch edition of this book? The consequence of that error is that millions of people online around the world now know the royals are again being implicated in what I think is a completely baseless claim of inferred racism. There is, again, massive speculation about who the people are who were supposedly making comments about Archie's skin colour, which is incredibly unfair to all the royal family. They've all been tarred with this brush now for years. Well, I'm going to end all this nonsense because, frankly, if a book is on the streets in Holland, available to Dutch people, containing names that Omid Scobie, the lickspittle scribe for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, the man who you may remember denied they had any involvement in the last book. And so did Meghan. Do you remember? No, had nothing to do with it.
So that was a f***ing lie.
But then in court, many months after the book was published, under oath, she had to admit she had emailed her aides briefing notes for when they met Scobie. So she was one of his primary sources on that first book. Now again, we're being told she had nothing to do with this. And maybe she didn't. And maybe we should be believing Omid Scobie when he says he did not ever write these names down in any draft of his book.
Are you serious?
It just somehow popped up in the Dutch version of the book. How? I've written 10 books, I think it is now. I've never had a version of my book pop up in a foreign edition. Fact. That contained unbelievably damning allegations about two of the most famous people in the world, and I had nothing to do with it and didn't know how it got there, and nor did anybody else. How does it get there?
That doesn't make sense.
Omid, surely you as the author, I mean, you must be furious, right? You must be demanding. Heads roll. And you want names, don't you, ironically? Omid, about who did this to you? Who besmirched your reputation as an author? I would, Omid. I'd want to know right now. Especially if I was trying to convince the world that I had nothing to do with it myself. And I'd never, ever put these names in writing. And maybe some lawyer had come along and told me not to. I mean,
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
Couldn't possibly have happened because you've given us your word. And as I've established so far in this monologue, your word is your bond and should be taken as sacrosanct. Well, I'm going to cut through all this crap. I'm going to tell you the names of the two senior royals who are named in that Dutch version of the book. Because frankly, if Dutch people wandering into a bookshop can pick it up and see these names,
What?
then you, British people here, who actually pay for the British royal family, you're entitled to know too. And then we can have a more open debate about this whole farrago.
Okay, I'm listening. You have my attention.
Because I don't believe any racist comments were ever made by any of the royal family. And until there is actual evidence of those comments being made, I will never believe it. But now we can start the process of finding out if they ever got uttered.
Stop it.
What the context was and whether there was any racial intent at all. Like I say, I don't believe there was. The royals who are named in this book are King Charles and Catherine, Princess of Wales. Well, joining me now is the royal editor of the Sunday Times, Roya Dicker, who just discovered I was going to do that.
Stop it.
Royal biographer Tom Bower, who also just discovered I was going to do that, and the professor of Black Studies at Birmingham University. The royal family is besieged right now. Our king has cancer. Princess Catherine's recovering from serious abdominal surgery that will keep her away from public duties until at least Easter. The monarchy is unquestionably still finding its footing after the death of the late Queen.
Are you serious?
But through every crisis, one man has stood firm against the barrage, resolutely maintaining a pretty special gift for making everything all about him. Yes, Prince Harry is back on our screens, and I suspect a lot of people shared my excitement when they heard this.
In moments, the Duke of Sussex will be hurtling headfirst 60 miles an hour down a winding track of ice in the mountains of Canada.
Well, fortunately, Harry emerged unscathed and made it back up the slopes to deliver a heartwarming message of peace and reconciliation. At least that was the plan.
We see it on a day-to-day basis. You know, the strength of the family unit coming together.
How have you processed the fact that there's so much happening back with your family?
I have
Very good question.
my own family,
Right.
so as we all do.
Yeah.
I've got other trips planned that would take me through the UK or back to the UK. So I'll stop in and see my family as much as I can.
Stop it.
Really? Even in a schmaltzy softball interview with American Breakfast Television, Harry is prickly and defensive, and with good reason. Illness will bring us back together, he says, before immediately clarifying that he's staying on the opposite side of the world because actually he's got plenty of his own things to be getting on with. But Rest assured, loyal subjects, he'll still pop in when he feels like it, if he can. Woo! Time permitting. Later in the same interview, Harry makes a stunning admission that he's now considering becoming an American citizen.
Would you think about becoming a citizen?
I have considered it, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What would stop you from doing it?
I have no idea.
You know what it might be? You have to give up your titles if you become a US citizen. I'd say the biggest senior member of the British royal family, whose only remaining relevance comes from monetising his ever-weakening royal links, is a pretty obvious barrier. Whether the US authorities would even consider making Harry a citizen after he gloated about his prodigious drug use in his memoir Spare is another issue. And just hours after revealing that he might abandon Britain for good, Harry began his briefings all over again. This time let it be known that, heroically, he's prepared to don his ginger cape and soar back to Britain, fulfilling some of the ailing king's duties while he's treated.
Stop it.
In a typically irritating millennial missive, Harry has offered a, quote, hybrid working model, the regal equivalent of meeting on Zoom in your underpants.
Prince Harry is keen to be reconciled with his father and has been telling people that he wants a return, that he's happy to step in some sort of temporary royal role while his father's away unwell. Obviously, the king has cancer. He's away from public duty. But also, Princess of Wales is off. She's recovering from abdominal surgery. She's not going to be around until Easter. What I've been told is that Prince Harry is very keen. He's always wanted to have a foot back in the fold.
Are you serious?
He never really wanted to be all the way out.
All very valiant, Harry, but there's one little problem. Nobody wants you back. 4 years ago, Harry and Meghan abandoned the royal family and the monarchy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
And resigned their royal duties to embark on a new life in California. The late Queen was crystal clear at the time. You cannot be half in, half out. If you go, you're gone for good. And it seems that the King himself has agreed with that. Harry jetted into the UK immediately after hearing his father's cancer diagnosis. No one can criticise him for that. But he might have been surprised at the less than hearty reception. The King's aides made Harry stay in a hotel.
Yeah, boy.
He was allowed just one hasty 30-minute meeting at Clarence House, not at Sandringham, where the King flew off on his helicopter to recuperate. Because, you know why? They were kind of worried that they wouldn't get rid of Harry, and also a little bit worried that someone who's committed all the private thoughts of his family to books and podcasts and television interviews in a scathing, derogatory manner might just do it all over again. They also knew that the King is a 75-year-old man being treated for a very serious illness and needs time to rest. He doesn't need to be part of the ongoing Sussex psychodrama. Now compare and contrast the dignified behaviour of Prince William, who's been taking care of his wife and only just returned to public duties. Last night he attended the BAFTAs and glided around